All right, so we're on page 109. You're going to title it 5.8a Quadratic Formula.
This is still part of the same one, right?
It's the add-on to the stuff that's going to be on the district test. Yes.
We don't have to make, wait, we still update, like, whenever you make that, okay with it.
Next week.
Yeah.
I mean, next.
We'll start the next section.
Oh, there is.
Where do I get those?
There won't be one until next week.
All right,
That's what I tried to tell you.
We have 1 week.
Yeah, why would you do that?
We have 1 week.
6 weeks doesn't start till next week?
All right, are we good?
I think I'm.
On page 109, divide it into 4 boxes, like the entire page. Don't just draw 4 tiny boxes in the middle of the page, which I've witnessed people done. You're gonna divide it into 4 boxes on page 109. I left the title up there for 2 minutes on purpose. 5.8a Quadratic Formula.
And we name the box.
Yes. Huh? Mr. Bachman.
How far are you gonna take them?
Oh, I found it.
Apparently, what's his name?
Shut up, shut up. Swear to God, I just want something.
Oh, did you see my spam story?
I skipped it.
My fault. My fault.
No, because I knew it was like something, it had to be something like that. I was like, no.
I think I only watched the first season.
This is the best show I've ever watched.
Okay, chill. Okay,
Keep
keep going.
fixing.
I don't know. Julio spoiled it for me, so I just gave up.
All right, here we go. Shh. So in your first box, you're writing the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Hey, okay. Yeah. So I feel like I should start every class like every set of notes for this week, but I won't be here all week, so never mind. But my teacher, the week we learned the quadratic formula, at the start of every class, we all had to stand up and sing the song. This was in 8th grade. Yes, because this is Algebra 1, but you guys were in a pandemic. At the start of a pandemic. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure not many of y'all paid attention to Edmonton. That's what it was.
I did Edmonton. I don't remember anything though.
All right, here we go. Again, if you like to join in singing the song, it's to the tune of Row, Row Your Boat. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Hey. Okay. It's the row, row, row your boat.
You got no rhythm.
Come on, bud. Gotta get into it.
All right, so y'all got box 2, box 1 in? Wait. That's all it goes in box 1.
Did you get your gift?
It's all that's on there.
How do you guys do
I
this
just
to
said
her?
box 1.
It just happened last
Did
second.
you get your gift?
I didn't give it to my mom.
All right, so when you're looking up here,
Woke up to a little box of chocolate.
do you guys see where A is coming from? A is your leading coefficient. B is your term with your linear, which means just power of 1. And C is your constant, okay? So it has to be in this form.
Okay.
In order for this to work.
So that is for that.
That's why it's in box 1. All right. Now we're going to go into box 2. Are you following me?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're in box 2. In box 2, you're writing 2x squared minus x equals 4. Those are the steps. If you need them. Yep. All right. So in box 2, you have 2x squared minus x equals 4. That's our problem that we're going to solve. These are the 4 steps that you use every time you're using the quadratic formula. Step 1 is you want to make sure the equation is equal to 0. So looking at what you have right now, 2x squared minus x equals 4, is it equal to 0?
No.
No. What do I need to do to equal it to 0?
Wait, subtract 4.
Subtract minus 4. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I'm going to be left with 2x squared minus x minus 4 equals 0. That's step 1. Questions about step one?
No.
Okay. Step two is just identifying, making sure you understand what your A, your B, and your C are. A is my leading coefficient. It's the one with my x squared. B is my middle coefficient. And there's Casper the Friendly one in its place here. And C is always my constant. Questions about identifying? Okay. Step three is to plug them into the quadratic formula. You're literally just plugging them in. That's the beauty of a formula. Someone already did the hard work for you. Your job is just to follow suit, okay? So we have x equals negative b, which is -1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is -1 squared, minus 4a, which is 2, times c, which is -4. Divided by 2 times a. Okay, if you remember how earlier I said that if you're not good at multiplication, you may need a calculator. This is where that comes into play. What you need to do is to multiply your discriminant. So we're at the evaluating part now. The first thing you're gonna do is your discriminant. This is called your discriminant. Discriminant. So you're going to find the value of your discriminant. Okay. So we have x equals a negative times a negative is a positive. So if I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to type in what's underneath the square root, the radical. So we have -1 squared minus 4 times 2 times -4. That's what's underneath there, right?
Yeah.
So I type that in, hit enter, and what do I get? 33.
So do we just, what, okay.
Okay,
Divided by 4.
so we have our discriminant is 33.
Is it? Is it plus or minus? Does that mean it's gonna do it?
That is, yes. So I'm gonna go back so you can see what I did. Any questions about how I plugged it in?
No.
No, just straight in.
Just straight in, that's it. Okay, divided by 4. Okay, this counts as an answer.
Oh.
This counts as an answer. It should be a very familiar answer because did we not get answers like this when we did completing the square?
We did.
We did.
We did actually.
Okay, why can I not do anything to 33? It just breaks down to 2 primes, right? 3 and 11. And can I do anything else with 3 and 11? No. So this is your exact answer.
We're done.
Okay, that's the exact. If it asks for an approximate, we're gonna go over finding the approximate. So I'm gonna go back to the calculator. When I'm looking for the approximate, I'm hitting Control Divide on this calculator to get a fraction. I have -1 plus the square root of 33. And my denominator was 4. That's one answer. I'm going to arrow up, click on it. And the plus or minus means that I have to add and I have to subtract. So my 2 approximate answers are about 1 and 1.9 and -1.69. So approximate this, because these decimals go on forever.
What is that under the 6 or your mouse?
Huh? Well, I didn't hear what you said, sweetie.
Oh, no, your mouse is in the way.
Oh, okay. All right. If you're not good at rounding, I don't know if you remember from, what's that class called? Algebra 1, you can always change the settings, not settings, properties. Oh, I guess you can't anymore. Why is this locked? There they are. You can change your document settings from float to exact. So if you can't round, you can lock it in at 2. And hopefully you are able to round. But if you can't, it'll lock it in at for you. Okay, so all I did was go to menu. I'm sorry, doc, settings, document settings. And all I did was change from my display from float to fix at 2. And that just does the rounding for you if rounding is not your strong suit. Okay. Mhm. All right, questions so far about the quadratic formula? Oh, I did not mean to stop sharing. My bad. Yes. All right, sorry guys, I didn't realize I put the negative in there. So it's actually positive, guys, positive 1 in 6900s and negative 1 in 1900s. And those are my approximate values. So this is my exact. So approximately x equals positive 1 in 6900s. Approximately x equals negative 1 in 1900s.
And do we always have to round it? Or
Yes, you're not going to be able, it'll tell you what value to round to.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Hey, guys. Any other questions, comments, concerns for me while I'm teaching?
In tonight's classwork, is it gonna be answer choice like this, in exact or in approximate?
Combination.
yeah.
So box 3 is x squared plus 4x equals negative 4. Now, box 3 is an example of you do not have to always use quadratic formula. You have other skills that have been taught to you so that you don't have to. Step 1, again, is you want to make sure it's equal to 0. And in this case, is it equal to 0? No. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So actually, we're working with x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Okay. Step 2 is to identify your A, your B, and your C. Well, pause on step 2. When you look right here, is this something you can mental factor?
Yeah.
Because you can ask yourself and it'll work. What multiplies to give me 4, but adds to give me 2?
2 and 2.
2 and 2. Do not forget those skills just because you're using something else. If you can mental factor this, then mental factor.
Oh, so for all the other ones that we were learning about, we could have just used that formula, or
Yes, you can. The quadratic formula is your catch-all. It's going to work regardless.
you always teach us that at the end, right? Like
Yes, your catch-all.
what was that
Yeah,
one?
I asked my brother for help before, and this is what he did.
Yeah,
that's-
your
that's-
quadratic function is your catch-all. So x equals negative 2. Do we see that?
Yeah.
Okay, you have that skill to do that already. What I'm gonna model is doing it with the quadratic formula. So with the quadratic formula, your A is 1, your B is 4, and your C is 4. I'm gonna plug it in like it says on step 3. So x equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. So I literally just plug in the coefficient and constants where they go. And we end up with x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 0. Because you have 4 squared is 16. 4 times 1 times 4 is also beautiful.
Which one?
Either,
No, you gotta tell me which one.
either. The fastest one. All right. Divided by 2. And when we simplify this, it's going to come out to be negative 4 divided by 2. What is negative 4 divided by 2? Negative 2. Okay. So again, the quadratic formula is our catch-all. If you weren't good at factoring, if you weren't good at completing the square, hey, here's your friend.
Yeah.
The quadratic formula.
She was.
Don't have
Oh.
like it's B or zero.
Okay. So questions, comments, concerns?
No, ma'am.
All right, we're gonna do the last box.
Real world.
So in this box, we're gonna do a real world example, so a word problem. The main thing with real world examples is that typically when you're rounding, you're always gonna round to a whole number. Okay? No, you're just writing down the equation. All right, your school's jazz band is selling CDs as a fundraiser. The total profit P depends on the amount X that your band charges for each CD. The equation P equals negative X squared plus 48X minus 300 models the profit of the fundraiser. What is the least amount in dollars you can charge for a CD to make $100 profit? So we have P equals negative X squared plus 48X minus 300. That's what we're writing down. And we want to make a profit of how much? So we want this to equal $100. Because that's our profit equation. And we know what the value of P is. This is a quadratic that you can solve. Step one of solving that quadratic is to make it equal to 0. So step one, I need to make this equal to 0. What do I need to do? Minus 100 from both sides. We subtract 100 from both sides, and we're now working with negative X squared plus 48X minus 400 equals 0. Then step two is to identify our variables. We have A is 1, B is 48, and C is negative 400. Step three is to plug in. So X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. On a scale with your fingers up in the air from 0 to 3, 3 being this, I understand completely. 0 being, I don't know what the heck we're doing. Please put up your fingers. 3 is, I completely understand what we're doing. 0 is, I have no clue what we're doing. If you're not putting up your finger, I'm assuming that you have no clue what you're doing, because that represents 0. So I see a lot of 3s. Okay, all right. If you did not hold your hand up, is it just because you didn't want to, or you don't understand what's happening? Silence. I love it. I love talking to myself. All right. So we're going to put the, what is it called underneath the square root? Anyone remembers? The discriminant. We're going to put the discriminant in. So we have 48 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 400.
How do you get that calculator, like on the computer? Like,
It's that calculator over there on the thing. It's the
yeah, I know,
Inspire.
but I want it.
You got to pay for it.
Oh, never mind.
So the school buys our subscription. So 704. So underneath our discriminant, so we have X equals negative 48 plus or minus 704 divided by negative 2. The reason why I do it in part so that if you are, yes.
Can you accept the answer if we took the square root of it? Like say it was like square root of 144.
You would simplify to 12 and completely simplify it all the way out. All right, so here we are at 704. At this point, guys, because this is a real world problem, we want a whole answer, we're gonna just type this in the calculator as it is. So we're gonna need the approximate value anyway. So we're gonna go here, go back to my calculator. I'm gonna hit Control Divide, and I have negative 48 plus the square root of 704. Again, if you want to follow along in the calculator, there's a whole thing of calculators over there, just so that you can follow along. The calculator can be in your hand and not on your computer. And then we had negative 2, right?
Yes.
Because it was 1 times negative 1. So here's my first answer. I'm going to arrow up, hit enter, delete the plus because it says plus or minus, or and, however you want to read it. I'm going to switch it to a minus, and here's my second value.
So how does it, so like, I get how it equals to the actual, how does it apply that to the book?
That's what we're about to do. So the problem says, what is the least I can charge for the CDs to make a profit of 100?
$10.73.
So that's the least amount I can charge.
Where does the 37 represent?
The most I can charge and still break even. That just means that at 1073, I'm gonna have to sell more CDs, right? At 3727, I can sell less CDs and make 100. Does that make sense? So either one of these will make me will create my profit of 100. So either,
Yes.
but it wants to know what's the least you can charge. So what is the least we can charge?
$10.73.
$10.73. So the least we can charge is $10.73. But are you gonna actually have a CD that costs $10.73? So we would sell this at $11.
Round it up. Yes, I know, pay $11 for CD.
CDs just cost more than that.
I thought you were just gonna be like, this is a fake problem.
This is,
Okay.
I thought you were gonna.
I think it'd be like, clearly they're not $11.
No, CDs used to cost at 11, 15, 19.
Did y'all grandparents ever have like a CD book?
My grandparents or my mom?
My grandma had a CD book.
I have a CD book. I have all my, I do.
You my grandma?
No, but I grew up the era of CDs.
She had monsters and aliens.
MP3 players came out when I was in high school.
Young boy?
MP3 players and iPods. All right, questions? Now, again, so the other amount, the 37, that represented the most I could charge, which means that I would sell less, I would have to sell less CDs. And I don't think anyone's gonna buy a CD for $37,
No way.
unless it's like a big complex, like a compilation of things, but maybe.
The Office.
But not just one CD for $37. So the least they can charge is 11, and that just means that they need to sell 10 CDs, right? All right, questions about the real world?
Nah, bro. Nah, I'm
No,
good.
it's actually,
I thought it was gonna be a lot harder, looking at the equation.
well, it's always.